Now I will present the process of acquisition of the fetal heart in stick mode. To do that, you need to keep the section through the fetal thorax symmetrically. And you will place the original plane of acquisition at the level of aortic root, that is called 5-chamber view. Do not mistake this with LVOT, which is actually the oblique view. So we come back to the 4-chamber view, and a bit higher level is the 5-chamber view. Now I activate 4D imaging, and then I select stick, which is 4D of the fetal heart. I assure myself if 5-chamber view is seen there. Now I select the acquisition time for 10 seconds, and then the acquisition angle for 25 weeks, because this patient is about 22 weeks. When I see that the patient is quiet, same as the fetus, I release the acquisition trigger, so you can watch the preview. Upper abdomen was there, 4-chamber, 5-chamber, and finally the upper mediastinum view. So looking at the preview, you can see the major sections that represent the cardiac views. Now we need to have a little introduction before we proceed further on. After you acquire the stick volume, you need to go precisely through the process of orientation. There are several ways described how to do that, but generally speaking, you need to use the same pattern. Then you have the reproducibility of all your stick examinations. Here I will use for orientation, which is the next step, I will use descending aorta that will lead me to the alignment of the cardiac anatomy within the chest. Afterwards, I will use several options to demonstrate basic cardiac views. So let's start with the process of orientation. Just after the acquisition, the fetal heart is beating with 100% of speed. You can reduce it, and then it will be easier to read. Normally, we do it with the speed of 50%. The next step is to bring the pivot point, which is located here in the A-plane, to the descending aorta. And then we'll turn the A-plane that the left ventricle and the apex of the heart will be on this side. Let's try to do it. I will bring my pivot point in the reference image A to the descending aorta, and next I will perform the Y-axis rotation. This brings my left ventricle to the left side, and then I need to check if the line of the descending aorta in all the 3 multiplanar views is straight. You can see that the A-plane needs to be rotated, so I'll do this first. You can see it now. It has to be rotated a bit more. And when you are properly orientated, you can see that the dot is displayed here as a transverse cut through the descending aorta. In the B-plane, you will get the ductal arch view, and in C-plane, you will see the descending aorta vertically. So this is the proof that your orientation was perfect. Now we'll go to the next step. We'll bring the pivot point to the level of the heart, and we'll look at the cardiac views. We'll use the multiplanar view first. Afterwards, we'll change to tomographic imaging, and finally to rendering. I'm selecting the reference image B now, and I will bring my pivot point just below the heart to upper abdomen. And now you can see that the stomach is displayed in A plane, aorta, and the inferior vena cava. To have a nicer view, I will select just A and B planes to be displayed. Now I will move the pivot point towards the fetal heart in the B plane. Let's move to the level of the 4 chambers here. And this is what you get here in your A plane. So this is 4-chamber view. You can see the foramen ovale flap. You can see the morphology of 2 ventricles. You can see 2 atria. Next, I will bring my pivot point to the level of aorta, which is clearly seen over here. And instantly, in your B, you start seeing the aortic root. The higher level is to present the right outflow. So I bring my pivot point to the classical 3-vessel view. So you can see the right outflow, the pulmonary valve, main pulmonary artery with its branching, ascending aorta, and superior vena cava. When I move my pivot point slightly higher, I should connect ascending aorta with descending aorta, that they will form the aortic arch. So let's try to do it. And here you start seeing the V sign, which is formed by the transverse section through the ductal arch and a transverse section through the aortic arch. And here you can see the superior vena cava and the trachea. This is what you find in your literature, like 3-vessel and trachea view. Now let's try to demonstrate A plane in tomographic imaging. I will come back to the classical multiplanar. I will bring my pivot point in B to the center, so to the level of 4-chamber. And now I will select reference image A, and I will present it in tomographic imaging. Let's move towards tomography. In tomography, you have parallel slices displayed in one screen. And you remember our discussion. We are navigating through the cardiac views in axial sections, and here you can see them on the same screen. Upper abdomen, 4-chamber, aortic root, the 3-vessel view. You can select the distance between the slices, and you can move the set of the slices together. For example, here is the 3-vessel and trachea view, and you can decide how many slices you want to be displayed on the screen. Normally, we use 8 slices, like shown here, or 5 slices, like here. But sometimes we need just 3 of them, 3 representative slices, like 4-chamber view, aorta, so 5-chamber view, and the 3-vessel or 3-vessel trachea view. These are the most representative ones. And we can try to bring the middle one to the level of the aorta, like here. So this is the central point. And then I will increase the distance between the slices. Now you can see in one screen 3 major views. That aortic root is displayed here. Here you have 4-chamber, and this is the right outflow with a classical 3-vessel view. So this is the other way of presenting the axial cardiac views. Let's try to move towards rendering. Rendering is a 3D reconstruction, as you know. So we will have a deeper perspective here. Let's try to do it. So I will come back to multiplanar first. You see that I'm arranged in the center with my pivot point in the B-plane, and I start with rendering. In rendering, you have region of interest in all the three planes, and we need to adjust it according to the target. In this case, we'll try to make a deeper perspective at the level of four-chamber view. I will make this region smaller in the B-plane first. So I select the B, and now I will make the region a bit smaller, that the right border is at the level of upper abdomen and the left border is just below the aorta. So next, the direction of rendering has to be changed, because here we have the direction up to down, which is typical, for example, for baby facing, but for the heart it won't be so helpful. So I will change the direction now into front to back, because that will cause that the A-plane will be presented in the rendered image. So instantly you can see the perspective. You can see that this is a three-dimensional reconstruction in the small region of interest. And you can bring it to the full screen, like this. Here I use the rendering algorithm which is called gradient light. And you should be careful about threshold low levels. We keep them quite low. Here we have the level 8, level 7. And in rendering settings, you should check the transparency. For most of our cases, we use low levels of transparency. So here you have 20. And be careful, because this is quite advanced imaging, and you need to wait until the machine processes it. So finally, you have it. You see the foramen ovale flap very nicely here. So let's try to move this region of interest across the cardiac views. I will move it towards the ascending aorta. And you can see with this deeper perspective the ascending aorta. And you need to wait a bit again. Next, you can move to the right outflow. And with deeper perspective, you can see the valve of pulmonary artery very clearly. So this is the potential of rendering. As you can see, Istic is a very advanced tool for fetal echocardiography. And here you can use all the variety of options that serve in the process of diagnostics. You can send the volume over the internet. You can discuss it among your team members. So it's much more detailed than the classical 2D evaluation.